listening to the RCWR Thursday Night Show with Lee Sanders.
And a very good Thursday evening to you all. This is the one and only the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders, and you're listening to the RCWR Thursday Impact Radio, or as I like to switch it around and say, Impact Thursday Radio. It's going to take me a while to get used to that. This is the Impact Thursday Radio. And I know some of you are probably saying to yourselves, why did we change the name of the show? Well, it's still the RCWR show, but got a little cliche sitting up and saying TNA, Impact Wrestling, Recap, and Review, as there are just a ton of people out there that go with that very same name. And I kind of decided actually a couple of weeks back that rather than just have that same old title, to try to spice it up a little bit and stand out a bit, because it's really hard to sit up and say you like a particular show when it has that same name. I mean, can you imagine talking to one of your friends that also listen to a wrestling podcast, and they go, hey, did you listen to that TNA Impact Wrestling Recap and Review show? And it's like, which one are you talking about? And so this is our way of trying to stand out, and that name will remain the same from here on out until we receive an email from the powers that be saying, could we kindly please change the name of our show? So we did a little bit of research. We took our time, really made sure that we weren't going to be stepping on anybody's toes, so we should definitely be okay. So, of course, the name is a giveaway itself, as it's Impact Thursday Radio, of course, as we do every single Thursday evening, which is still going to remain the same. Might have a bit of a different name to it, but it's still going to be the same show. We're going to talk about Impact Wrestling, get you caught up on what all transpired on the latest installment of Impact Wrestling, and it just went off the air just a few seconds ago, and what a very great and strong episode that it was following the Lockdown 2012 pay-per-view, and we'll go into that in just a little bit. Of course, as always, our chat room is open in case you wish to participate with other members in the chat room and discuss latest installment of Impact Wrestling. You can also call our toll-free 800 number and be live on the air. That's right, toll-free, 888-342-9848. Again, that toll-free 800 number is 888-342-9848. And for those of you that might have been paying attention to the show description tonight, you all are probably a little puzzled as to why we are only going to be doing an hour tonight. That is because I do not have the pleasure of being assisted with tonight's show by co-producer Tammy, and I don't have Zed doing his usual thing on Twitter and interacting with the users. I'm a one-man band tonight, so as a result of being a one-man band, I decided to cut the show a little short by a half hour. So I apologize for those of you that are normally used to your 90-minute fix, but have no fear. Next Thursday, we will be not only back at our regular time, as always, but we'll go back to our 90 minutes that we usually do. So, very quick note, I definitely want to I haven't really let it be known too much. I sent a couple of tweets earlier during the day, but major announcement here, as I will be having the pleasure of having special guest host that's going to be coming by Impact Thursday Radio next week, the one and only Justin Reno. Now, for those of you that are not really familiar with Justin Reno, you are definitely going to remember this man's name by the time he gets done in what I think what might probably be a takeover of our RCWR show, as this guy is really great. He is a former MECW heavyweight champion. He became the youngest MECW heavyweight champion back in November of last year. And, I mean, this guy has wrestled all over the place. He's wrestled in Seven Rivers Wrestling, Dynasty Pro Wrestling, IWA Midwest. Where else has he wrestled? He's wrestled in Pro Wrestling Blitz. He's wrestled in The Wrestling Show. He's also wrestled for Windy City Pro Wrestling. So give you an idea on where all he's been. And he's been at it for a couple of years now. He's been an active wrestler since the age of 18. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really fun. And I'm definitely humbled and honored that he's going to be coming by here for Thursday night show, because this is going to be my very first guest. And I do hope that you all can mark it down on your calendars and you can join us, be live on the air, as it's really going to be cool. He could take some of your questions, and, I mean, we're just going to kick back and we're just going to let it flow and let it do its thing. So it should be a really cool and fun show. So that's actually also part of the reason why I'm going to be cutting the show a little bit short, because I am trying to make sure that I am best prepared for Justin, because I have a feeling this guy is going to be very, very sharp and very, very quick. So I definitely am trying to make sure that I am able to keep up the pace with him. But I think I have the superior chops to laugh with him during the special broadcast. And also, I'm very proud to announce that within a couple of weeks, we are also going to be having a few more people stop by the RCWR show. Some people that you may know, some people whose names you've probably heard in circulation and might have been a little curious about. There actually might be some people that you've never heard of. But the one thing that I can definitely promise you, that with these guests that we have coming on to the show and joining us here, that it's going to be really fun, it's going to be entertaining. So definitely, as more information becomes available on who all is going to be dropping by, you will know. Just make sure that you are following us on Twitter for all the latest news, updates, information on our shows. And you can also follow our show itself by checking it out on blogtalkradio.com/the RCWR show. And when you're taken to the main page on there, there's actually an option that you can click on to follow the show. And you're more than welcome to leave comments about the show on there, as we appreciate your feedback. And, of course, as always, you can actually download all of our episodes for free. So you definitely want to check that out. You can save it to your desktop, play it on the site right then and there. Or if you're feeling gadget savvy, like I know most of you are, I know I'm gadget savvy, you are more than willing to download it through iTunes. That's right. Just go to the iTunes marketplace, type in keywords RCWR or the RCWR show, and you will see all of our latest episodes for your downloading pleasure. That's right. I'm so excited. That's why I had the little pause there in my throat. But, yeah, check it out. As long as I am the host, it's going to remain free, folks. So keep that in mind. Again, Justin Reno, he's going to be coming by next Thursday on the RCWR show. So definitely check that out. All right, so as I said, Impact Wrestling just went off the air not too long ago, and what a very strong episode that it was tonight, considering that we just came off of a fairly decent TNA Lockdown pay-per-view. And for those of you that did not have the privilege of checking out the TNA Lockdown pay-per-view post-show, definitely backtrack and check it out, as it's one of our second most downloaded episodes to date, and I definitely want to thank you fans for making that possible, as we had a lot of fun getting that post-show together for you all. And as I said on a previous episode of the RCWR show, we will definitely be doing more post-shows. Who knows? Maybe if the demand is popular enough, we will actually try to squeeze in a couple of UFC pay-per-view post-shows in there, too. Just depends on the type of feedback that we get. So definitely stay posted with us. But, yeah, what a great, fairly decent pay-per-view that it was. For those of you that didn't listen to the Tuesday night broadcast, out of the 9,000 seats, rather, that were at the Nashville, Tennessee arena for the Lockdown pay-per-view, there was only about 2,000 seats that were occupied. So that kind of gives you an idea on how not so good this pay-per-view was. And my review of the pay-per-view, I basically let it be known that out of the 8 matches that they had, there was only 3, possibly 4 matches that were good. So you kind of had that impression. I know I had the impression. I don't know about some of you, but I definitely had the impression going into tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling that it definitely needed to be a strong episode, because the Lockdown pay-per-view was somewhat weak. And what a great episode as it delivered. We got dropped with a huge bombshell by the one and only TNA General Manager, Hulk Hogan. And I'll get into that in a little bit, but let's kick it off at the top of the hour for Impact Wrestling, as TNA World Heavyweight Champion, that's right, he successfully retained his championship. Robert Roode comes out dressed in his civilian clothes, and he is sporting a brand new look, as Robert Roode has apparently gone to hair cuttery, because he has cut off all that pretty long hair, and he has a very short style look going on right now. It almost is as low as Edge's new haircut. That gives you an idea of how he's looking now. And he looked really good with the new haircut. I was really impressed. He looks more distinguished. Anyway, he comes to the ring, and the fans, they are letting him have it tonight. They are chanting at him to shut the hell up as he's trying to talk. And he mentions how he made good on a promise that he was going to remain the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, but gave a little bit of credit to Cowboy James Storm. And he said, Cowboy, you did keep your end of the bargain. You did deliver that last call super kick, and I felt it. My mouth is still reeling from it. And the champion would then go on to say that, but despite all that, despite all your efforts, I still stand before all of you people, your World Heavyweight Champion. And an interesting note here, I don't know for those of you that may be going back to check this episode out later if you DVR'd it, but very interesting glitch in this particular segment, as there were a lot of glitches throughout the night, and I'll cover that more in a little bit. But right when Robert Roode said, "I stand before you," the frame just automatically got cut. It was almost as if the producer said, "Cut, we can't do this. Let's wait a few minutes and let's try to pick it back up." I don't know if maybe this was done on purpose due to the crowd response, as it was very overwhelming in the first few minutes that Roode was stepping in the ring. It just seemed like almost an entirely different atmosphere after that abrupt cut, because as soon as you see him say, "I stand before you," the next thing you see is all of a sudden his hand is just raised out of nowhere as he's gesturing in the crowd. And it's kind of like, how do you jump from that frame to that frame so fast? So you can definitely tell there was some editing going on right there. But regardless, Roode would continue on and say that after taking out Sting, after topping whatever Hulk Hogan has thrown at him, that when it's all said and done, there are no more heroes left for him to take on, that there is no more challengers. And wouldn't you know it, the one and only Mr. Anderson would come out and he would get in the champ's face and he would have a few words with him, as remember, Mr. Anderson had a match with Robert Roode a couple of weeks back on an episode of Impact Wrestling, and Robert Roode would do the same thing to Mr. Anderson that he did to the Cowboy, James Storm, back in November to become the World Heavyweight Champion, which was taking that bottle to the head. And that's exactly what Roode did with Mr. Anderson last week, as Anderson is still looking for that big payback. And Mr. Anderson, very defiant, wants him some of Robert Roode. But then the Enigma, the Sir Creature himself, Jeff Hardy, would come out, and he wants a piece of Robert Roode as well. And from there, TNA General Manager Hulk Hogan would take control of the situation as he appeared on the Titantron to chime in on his thoughts. And he said, you know what? We need to figure out who's going to be the new number one contender to face Robert Roode at the Sacrifice pay-per-view. So tonight we're going to have a main event. It's going to be Jeff Hardy taking on Mr. Anderson. So our main event is set for the evening. Our first match of the evening saw Crimson teaming up with Bully Ray to take on the TNA X Division champion Austin Aries as he teams up with Matt Morgan. And the winners of that match would be Bully Ray and Crimson, as Bully Ray at the very end of the match, he did a roll-up, schoolboy pin, if you will, on Austin Aries, and he pulled those trunks on that poor guy way off. I mean, it seemed like it was an eternity that Austin Aries' bare naked rear end was just exposed to the world. It seemed like it was forever, that 3 count, as his butt is just all out there, and it was very silly. But Crimson and Bully Ray, they would pick up the win, and as I alluded to on the Lockdown pay-per-view post-show, I said that because of the way it had finished between Crimson and Matt Morgan, that expect them to definitely still, in some type of capacity, to continue their feud, as Crimson still remains undefeated. So it's really nice to see those guys still somewhat involved. In a backstage segment now we go, as Garrett Bischoff is making his way to the ring to officially say goodbye to his dad. And from there we see in another backstage segment that Jeff Hardy is talking with the camera guys. He's giving them his thoughts on Hulk Hogan's decision, as he feels that it's fair and that he doesn't mind taking on Mr. Anderson tonight, and that this move has really woken him up, and that he is going to do whatever he needs to do to become the new number one contender. From there, Garrett Bischoff and his teammates that assist him in the win at the Lockdown pay-per-view, Mr. Anderson, AJ Styles, RVD, they all come out. And Garrett Bischoff, I don't know why they let this guy talk, why they put a microphone in his hand, but they put the microphone in his hand and Garrett Bischoff is talking. And folks, I tried really hard to listen to what Garrett Bischoff had to say, but if you all are familiar with the Peanuts, Charlie Brown and the gang, all I heard when I am listening to Garrett Bischoff, you know, when the parents are usually talking to the kids in the Peanuts cartoons, Charlie Brown was talking to his mom or whatever, and it's like every single time Garrett Bischoff opened his mouth tonight, that's all I heard. And finally, I started understanding what was being said once he gave the microphone to AJ Styles. But let me not rag on the guy too bad. Basically, he said that he was happy that he was able to pick up the win and that now he's done with his dad and that he can officially focus on his wrestling career. And from there, Ric Flair, that's right, God, as he likes to call himself, would come out and he would inform all of them that he is pretty pissed off at what had happened. And he mentions Eric Bischoff's name, but he gets bleeped. And it's so funny because if you think about it, Bischoff, I mean, that sounds like a derogatory name right there, like you're trying to call somebody the B word. So now that they're bleeping it, it's just even more funny. You can't help but pay attention to it because remember the stipulation at the Lockdown pay-per-view. If Eric Bischoff lost, not only was he done in TNA, but he also could no longer use the Eric Bischoff name. Hell, the guy could be at a flea market trying to sell autographs and no can do. It ain't happening. He's got to change his name. So it's almost like they're trying to completely erase Eric Bischoff and his history with the TNA organization. But anyway, Ric Flair said that he's going to be throwing a party for his compadre, Eric Bischoff, next week, that it's going to be a tribute, it's going to be one awesome party, and he would walk off and tell Team Garrett that he's pissed at what had happened. And funny note, let me back it up a second. Despite Garrett Bischoff cutting whatever bad promo that was, when he passed the microphone to AJ Styles, the look on AJ Styles' face was priceless because AJ Styles said the following to Garrett Bischoff: "You got some balls," basically because he did what he needed to do to pick up the win and try to represent his team and try to look good in front of the fans. But the way AJ Styles said it, it's like, you got some balls. It's like, yeah, he's got some balls, all right. He's got no balls at all. That's really what it is, because this guy is riding off of the coattail of Daddy to try to be successful in singles competition or as a wrestler. So anyway, second match of the evening, we saw Kurt Angle taking on AJ Styles. I know, very random match. I was actually anticipating Kurt Angle sitting out. He did say himself on Twitter that he was going to be taking some time off to get healed, but that he'd be back in time for the Sacrifice pay-per-view. Not really sure what happened there, but in any case, Kurt Angle is thrown in this match against AJ Styles. And a little bit prior to this, what happened here? Correction. Yeah, a little bit prior to this, it was really interesting what had happened during this match. As soon as they lock it up, like after the first 90 seconds, the screen just goes black, and this would happen more than once throughout the broadcast. I thought maybe there was something wrong with my reception, and I later learned while reading the Twitter feed that everybody else was experiencing the same problem. So it looked like after the brief 50 seconds of a black screen, some commercials would air, but the match would pick up as Daniels and Kazarian would come out, and they had an envelope in hand. Now, it should be noted that in a respected backstage segment prior to this match taking place, Daniels and Kazarian spoke about finally having the evidence and as far as why AJ Styles, the dirt that they basically have on him. That's what I'm trying to say. I apologize. They basically have this dirt on AJ Styles, and they decided that they're going to share that dirt with AJ Styles. So during this contest, Daniels and Kazarian, they would come out and they would give this white envelope to AJ, and he grabs it, and he just has this shocked look on his face, and he's like, "Where did you all get this? What the hell?" And Kurt Angle just comes up from behind and rolls up AJ Styles to pick up the win. But AJ Styles really doesn't care right now. He's more concerned about how the hell did Daniels and Kazarian get a hold of this sensitive documentation that's in this envelope. And I couldn't help but make fun of it because I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, man, that must be some crucial documentation. And the only thing I'm thinking to myself is, okay, AJ, what happened? Did you used to pose for Playgirl? Did you used to be a male porn adult actor that did scenes with other men or something? Because this seems kind of brutal, man, that you lost your match to protect this documentation. It's got to be some notorious photos or something. I don't know what it is, but I can't wait to hear what is in that envelope, as Kazarian and Daniels will let AJ know, you can keep that one, brother. We got more where that came from. So it's kind of like, what the hell do they have on him? But this is a running gag right now because who knows? It could be AJ Styles dressed in a Madison Rain outfit, having a intimate encounter maybe with former TNA announcer Don West, or maybe he's doing something with Mike Tenay. I mean, the possibilities are endless, folks. So I apologize to you hardcore AJ Styles fans that probably don't like those jokes, but hey, man, this is the storyline that they sat up and are going with right now. So you got to admit, it's kind of funny. It's like, what the hell is going on in there? Anyway, we go to another backstage segment now as Joseph Parks, a.k.a. Abyss, is continuing to find relevant information containing to the whereabouts of his brother, Abyss. So he runs into Gunner, and for the second time now, he tries to talk to Gunner and get information about the whereabouts of Abyss. And Gunner tells him once again that he doesn't have time for him, he needs to get out of his face. But now Joseph Parks starts to become more aggressive, and he does not let Gunner go until he gets some type of information from him. And Gunner tells him, look, man, the last time I saw Abyss, he had something to do with Bully Ray. You need to talk to Bully Ray and don't ever talk to me again. So very heated confrontation there. From there, we go to our third match of the evening, which saw Samoa Joe. Oh, correction. It actually wasn't the third match. It was actually a meeting as Hulk Hogan wanted all the champions to be in the ring. So we had Samoa Joe and Magnus along with Gail Kim and Devon. And once again, the feed would get interrupted. We would see a black screen, very annoying. What the hell has been going on during this broadcast with the editing and the feed interruption. But when it's resumed, we see a backstage segment with Hulk Hogan talking to RVD, excited that RVD is back, and comes up with this really cool idea that it needs to be RVD involved in the match with Jeff Hardy and Mr. Anderson, and that it's going to be a triple threat now to determine who's going to be the new number one contender, and RVD loves the sound of it. From there, Hulk Hogan comes to the ring, and keep in mind at this point, Robert Roode, he is out there as well. It went down, I guess, during that feed interruption. But Hulk Hogan would come out, and you want to talk about a major announcement. I mean, personally, I thought that the announcement that I was going to hear tonight might have been with regards to Rent-A-Center. I mean, I thought maybe Hulk Hogan was going to come out and maybe he was going to say,
"Look here, brothers, I got this new contract deal with Rent-A-Center, so I'm no longer going to be doing this TNA stuff anymore, brothers."
I mean, I thought maybe he was going to say a little something like that, or maybe he was going to say, you know,
hey, Hulkamaniacs, Hulk Hogan has a new porn video out.
I mean, I don't know. I thought, you know, maybe it was going to be an announcement like that. I was not anticipating something as extreme as what he dropped to all of the TNA champions as next week and from here on out, once a month, there is going to be a open fight night. Now, what that means is every single month there's going to be a new piece of talent that's going to get the opportunity to come out, compete, tell their story, okay? And if Hulk Hogan and his three-man side panel like what they see, then they will give that person a TNA contract. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. If the champions get called out for that challenge, they have to accept it. Doesn't matter who it is, they have to accept it. And Robert Roode would be very disgusted with this, as well as Gail Kim. And Hogan was very quick to remind them that he is the TNA general manager and that he can do whatever he wants to do, and that is law, that is what's going down. And that the beautiful part about this is he gets to pick who will be accepting that challenge. So talk about the Hulkster stroke right there. And from there, he would actually have a few words with Devon, who is the television champion, and lets him know that he's been seeing that television title defended for many, many, many years, and that from here on out, beginning tonight and each and every week, that television title will be defended. And he put the entire TNA roster on notice, as not only will the champions have to accept that challenge if Hogan puts them in a match with a new challenger coming from outside of the company, but the entire TNA roster has been put on notice as well. So this is a really cool, innovative thing. I like seeing this. This gives us, the viewers, you the fans, the opportunity to see new talents that you've never seen before from other promotions come in, or underground independent wrestlers come in and give themselves a chance to come out there, hopefully tell a really great story and really impress in the ring to secure a contract. I am all for this. Now, our third match of the night saw Gail Kim teaming up with Sarita, Rosita, Madison Rain to take on a returning Brooke Tessmacher, Tara, Velvet Sky, and Mickie James. And you want to talk about a lot of knockout action in the ring. It was getting so hot watching all those beautiful knockouts in that ring that it was very hard to focus, but focus I was able to do, as the winners of the match would be Brooke, Tara, Velvet, and Mickie James, as Brooke got a roll-up pin on the Knockouts champion Gail Kim, I believe. There was just so much action going on in there. I was just really distracted at all the beauty and the nice ring attires that was going on. And I guess Miss Velvet Sky might have heard this show, because for a couple of weeks there I had expressed how disgusted I was that she was not letting those pigeons loose, and she finally let those pigeons loose again tonight, and I appreciate that, Miss Velvet. Definitely keep up the great work. Make sure you let those pigeons loose regularly. Don't let a week go by. It's like medicine. We need it. In the backstage segment now we go, where Mr. Anderson is promising that he's going to get the win over RVD and Jeff Hardy, despite it now being a triple threat, as he's not forgotten the beer shot from Robert Roode. From there, we see video footage from earlier in the day with ODB and EY as they're celebrating on their little honeymoon. Looks like they're at a beach resort, and some really small little guy comes in, and he just basically wanted to know if they were okay. I guess he worked at the resort, and Eric Young thought that this guy was hitting on ODB, so Eric Young strips all the way down to some underwear and wants to know if the guy wants to fight, and the guy's like, no, I don't want to fight. So that was the end of that. From there, we would cut to a backstage segment where we see James Storm has finally arrived in the Impact Zone, as he's going to be addressing the Impact crowd shortly about his devastating loss to Robert Roode at the TNA Lockdown pay-per-view. Our fourth match of the night saw the television title finally being defended on an episode of Impact, and man, finally we get Devon back in Impact. I thought maybe Impact Wrestling was beneath Devon, since he hadn't shown up since January, as he would defend his title against Gunner, and Devon would successfully retain his championship during that contest. From there, immediately, James Storm would come out, and him and Devon had a brief exchange of words and a hug, as James Storm would go in the ring, and a very somber James Storm, as he lets Robert Roode know that, hey, you might have got the win, but you didn't beat me. And James Storm, at first, he sounded very confident, but then the mood just changed, as James Storm felt that maybe his luck has finally run out, as he's now questioning himself. And he would leave the ring speechless after saying that he was so disappointed not bringing the TNA World Heavyweight Championship belt home to his little daughter, who asked if he won the belt and where the belt was. And at this point, he feels as though he is a failure, not just to his daughter, but to his family, but most importantly, he feels like a failure in himself. And very interesting development there, as now it seems like his confidence is shaken. And this was beautifully done, because the crowd they just love James Storm even more now, and they showed it during this segment, despite the somber words that he was dishing out. And I think this is a very good job that they have done, and I like to see this continue to play out for a few more weeks, as it's really helping James Storm get even more over. And just the fact that he wasn't even able to get the win over Roode, he is still that crowd favorite. So I like how he isn't just buried right now. So I definitely like what's going on with that, and I look forward to seeing how the rest of this plays out. And our last match of the evening saw RVD taking on I forgot my names already. RVD taking on Jeff Hardy and Mr. Anderson. Okay, I'm back on the rebound now. I'm freestyling over here, so that's the beautiful part about this show is there's no script, so it's all freestyle. So, hey, if I mess up, it's live. Oops. All you can do is just move on, and that's what we're doing right now. So, anyway, we would see RVD taking on Jeff Hardy taking on Mr. Anderson in our main event for the evening. Remember, number one contender spot is on the line, and very shockingly, Mr. Anderson would pin Jeff Hardy, and he is the new number one contender to face Robert Roode at the TNA Sacrifice pay-per-view. And I was a bit shocked right there, as I was definitely expecting Jeff Hardy to pick up the win. And let's do this. I'm going to take a break, and then when we come right back, I'll give you my takeaway from tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling and try to look into my crystal ball a little bit and see if we can call some stuff that'll happen next week, and we'll dip into some other stuff as well. You're listening to the RCWR Impact Thursday Radio. We're live, and we are coming right back.
We got baby spare ribs, roast beef, hot links, and more to give. Cube steaks, hot dogs, real tips, ooh, pork chops, chicken wings, and chicken wings too. Give me a wave if you like catfish. Jump up if it's your favorite dish. Tommy likes ribs and chicken wings. If you like you, let me hear you scream. Wave for catfish. Scream for ribs. Ooh, and oink.
In excess.
Live, baby, yeah.
One white boy.
I said a message.
I need you tonight. Don't ask me. Hit after hit after hit. What you know is true.
By my side.
They gave us the milestones of our lives. In excess, the years 79 to 97. 41 songs on 2 CDs.
What you need.
Always keeping it real is the RCWR Show with Lee Sanders.
Yeah, all right, and we are back. You are listening to the RCWR Thursday Impact Radio. You know, it's going to take me a while to get used to this. It's Impact Thursday Radio. Let's try that one more time. You're listening to the RCWR Impact Thursday Radio. Yay, I got it right. Yeah, give me like a couple of weeks. It's going to take me a while to get used to this because I've just been so used to saying the Thursday night edition of the RCWR show. I can still refer to it as that, but I like that whole Impact Thursday Radio. It's got a nice little ring to it, and I'm already working with a couple of people on some really cool logo designs for this particular show. So hopefully we'll have that up and running in the show description for a couple of weeks. Hey, for those of you that download our episodes, if you want the artwork for the show, hit us up with an email or hit us up with a tweet. For our email, you can just go to our website at infinityOneProductions.com, click on the contact tab, and you can send us a email, or you can send us a tweet, and we'll be more than happy to give you the artwork for the show so that you can have it and it can be on all the episodes that you download. I tried wrapping my brain around getting the artwork for the iPod episodes because you can see it when you look at the show description in the marketplace. It's in there, but it's nothing that we can do on our part once it's transferred over to your iTunes library. It's actually Blog Talk Radio that still has that little hiccup. So hopefully they'll get that squashed soon. But for those of you that like looking at artwork while you're listening to your shows, just let us know if you need some artwork. We'll be more than happy to hook you up. Anyway, in our last segment, we just completed talking about tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling. Now, my takeaway from it, off the break, let's rate it. Tonight, I think given the huge news that was given for this particular episode, I think it was a pretty damn good episode. It was definitely rememberable. I would have to give it, scale to 1 to 10, I'd have to give it an 8. So, now if I were doing this by a 5-star rating, I would give it a 3.5, maybe a 4. So it was definitely a very good, strong episode, and this is exactly what they needed. The timing couldn't be more better since they were coming off of that Lockdown pay-per-view. I am personally looking forward once a month to this open fight night. I think this is a shot into the arms of TNA fans, and also I think by this move happening, it also gets people talking about TNA. And I think that if they do this right, it could definitely be one of those situations where you can bring back the old TNA fans who felt that they were watching something that was just becoming stale and that nothing new or exciting was happening. So I think that if they do this right and they make it as strong and powerful as possible, as I feel that's how they're trying to make it come off to be, with it being a very unique concept, I think those old TNA fans will definitely come back to check this out. They may not check out the other episodes of Impact Wrestling, but I'm sure they will definitely come back to check the Open Fight Night show out. So, great move on the TNA creatives that came up with this. It should be very interesting to see how this plays out. I'm very excited to be able to see new talent once a month, no matter what. That's really cool in my book. Definitely would like to hear what you all think about that new Open Fight Night. Toll-free number, 888-342-9848. Again, that toll-free 800 number is 888-342-9848. So let's talk about next week. So we got James Storm, whose confidence is a little bit unshaken right now, as he's not really sure if he has what it takes to become a champion, despite coming oh so close several times to having Robert Roode's number. So is this going to be a situation where James Storm continues to play the guilt trip? Who knows? If I were to look into my crystal ball, I would love to see James Storm cross paths with Hulk Hogan next week, and Hulk Hogan maybe in some type of a backstage segment says, look, brother, you did one hell of a job at the Lockdown pay-per-view. You really shouldn't be beating yourself up like this. You came very close. Hey, there's going to be other opportunities for you, that I can promise you. I definitely see him getting some type of a pep talk. If it's not going to be from Hogan, okay, but I definitely see him getting some type of a pep talk, and maybe it could be a situation where I'd like to see Hogan put him in a match that night to try to get that confidence back in him, and maybe it could be a situation where James Storm starts losing a few more matches, and that just really shakes him up, shakes him to his core, and really makes him doubt himself and his ability to win that big one. And maybe it could conclude in some type of a epic match at the next pay-per-view that can somehow get James Storm, get him and his confidence back up where it needs to be. So I definitely like the idea of that. Obviously, Velvet Sky and Gail Kim, they are not done with one another, so I'm definitely looking for some type of a confrontation between those two next week. And we already know, as long as Devon and as long as that television title is active, that's going to be defended. So it should be really cool to see who he's going to be defending that title against next week, as next week is going to be the first open fight night for TNA. So that should really be cool. AJ Styles, I'm expecting him to be in some type of a talking segment where he calls out AJ Styles, where he calls out Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. So I'm expecting AJ Styles to call them out with regards to the sensitive material that they gave him on tonight's episode. So that should be really cool as well. And Ric Flair, I definitely see his party for Eric Bischoff, his little send-off, I definitely see that being crashed. I see Garrett Bischoff having some fun with Ric Flair, God, next week. So that should really be interesting right there. So those are my little predictions as I look into my crystal ball there. Also, hey, real quick, as promised, from here on out, we are definitely going to start covering on our Thursday night show here. We're going to be covering NXT. So for those of you that might have missed it, you didn't really miss much. We give you the results. So with that in mind, here's your results for the latest NXT Redemption installment. We had Percy Watson versus Johnny Curtis, and during this match, William Regal, who's been named the new GM for NXT Redemption, is commentating with Josh Matthews, and they're joined at the commentating booth by Maxine. She states that Johnny Curtis is the one responsible for kidnapping Matt Striker. She also talks about showing appreciation for the new boss that's put in charge, as is William Regal, and she says that there is no current relationship between her and Curtis. She also follows this up about her relationship with Derek Bateman, as there's nothing happening with that as well. Meantime, Percy Watson, very impressively, he would defeat Johnny Curtis. Post-match, Regal would congratulate Percy on his win, but tells Curtis to come over to the commentating booth as Maxine has a match next, as she takes on Katie Lynn. Derek Bateman, he reluctantly joins them at the commentating booth, where Josh wants to know if Bateman and Katie Lynn are together, and he confirms they are. Meanwhile, he's insisting that he didn't have anything to do with kidnapping Matt Striker and that Maxine is behind it all. Josh wants to know if Johnny is with Maxine, and he confirms they aren't and that he's ready to mingle. Meantime, match-wise, Diva action, Maxine defeated Katie Lynn with a Dragon Sleeper / Scissor Lock combination. Post-match, Regal wants Maxine to come over to the commentating booth. Regal wants Maxine to be the manager of Johnny Curtis, as it will be the only way the two of them will still be employed on NXT. He has a contract ready for them to sign, and reluctantly they sign. From there, Mr. Regal puts handcuffs on both of them and sends them off. In the backstage segment we go now, as Titus O'Neil and Darren Young are talking, and Titus reveals that they will no longer be doing any silly challenges, trying to get redemption points, as he has paperwork for them to go to SmackDown. It's legit paperwork. So they start celebrating. From there, we see Matt Striker, who is looking at a mirror at himself. He's got revenge on his mind as he's looking to confront Tyler Rex and Kurt Hawkins. From there, we saw a Raw Rebound recapping CM Punk and Chris Jericho's ongoing rivalry. And in the backstage segment, we see Kurt Hawkins and Tyler Rex talking about the video footage of them kidnapping Matt Striker, and that it's edited, and that they both decided that they're just going to deny it and blame it on Johnny and Maxine. Johnny and Maxine would soon bump into them, and they get into a shout fest as Percy Watson comes in, laughs at the situation of the two being handcuffed, followed by Bateman, followed by Katie Lynn. And from there, we would see Tyler Rex and Kurt Hawkins come out to the ring and accuse Regal of video editing the footage and assist that they didn't kidnap Matt Striker. Meantime, Matt Striker comes out and he has Hawkins' cane and calls Hawkins a moron and that he knows what the two of them have done. Hawkins plays off of Striker's emotions and asks him to, he says to him, what are you going to do, basically? You can't do nothing. You're short. You're weak. You're puny. You can't do nothing. Striker takes a swing at Hawkins with the cane, but Hawkins was able to dodge it in time. Mr. Regal would take control of the situation and tell Tyler Rex and Kurt Hawkins that they will go into a one-on-one match and that the loser will be fired. Rex doesn't want to do the match, but Hawkins quickly punches him in the face to try to take control of the situation. Matt Striker is yelling, "Hey, we need a referee." And he takes off his little sports jacket to reveal a referee uniform as he is the referee for this match. So in our third match of the evening and final match of the evening, it'd be Tyler Rex taking on Kurt Hawkins, where Tyler Rex defeats Kurt Hawkins. So very cool right there. Post-match, William Regal, he officially makes it official that Kurt Hawkins is fired, but then he would also follow it up by firing Tyler Rex as well. And those are your NXT results for this week. And that is going to do it for this Thursday night edition of the RCWR Impact Thursday Radio. And I'd like to just say this in closing, which is thank you very, very much for continuing. Thank you very, very much for continuing to follow the show, and definitely hope that you appreciate the new edition of the NXT results. As I know a lot of you don't really want to go through watching it, so you just kick back, relax. We will definitely have for you the results each and every week. So remember, next week we got some plans lined up. We have Justin Reno stopping by next Thursday. Of course, we're going to be doing what we normally do on Tuesdays. So let me just back it up a little bit. Tuesdays, Thursdays, 11 p.m., but definitely mark on your calendars for this Thursday night. Justin Reno is going to be stopping by. Be sure to check out all our episodes on iTunes. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Have a great weekend, and remember to be kind to one another.